Root Literary is very boutique, very small. We're not big on like a lot of agencies, for instance, have like junior agents, like associate agents, assistant agents, senior agents, the vice president of the agency. Like there's a lot of like those kind of titles. I feel like, you know, I don't want to say that there is seniority like at the agency, like there are people here that are more experienced, right? And so there is that type of seniority, but as far as like those type of labels and that type of like structure, it's just not the way that we kind of run things here. So if you were at one of those agencies, I suppose that would be the track, right? It'd be like, I want to be VP of the agency one day. I want to run the children's department of this agency, which those do exist at some agencies, just not at ours. So I think for me, like, being an agent is very much like owning your own business that you operate within the kind of like infrastructure of the larger agency. So, sky is kind of the limit with as far as like where you take that.
Well, I'd like to imagine that while everybody has a say, at some point, when push comes to shove, Polly stands up and says, "Hey, whose name is right there on the letterhead?" Right?
Yes. But we're such a tiny team that like those, I see there's a logic to those type of gigs and like the structure of an agency and like the hierarchy there. But we're such a small team that like, if Taylor walked in one day and was like, "I'm the VP," I'd be like, "What? Like, who are you?" like of me and the two other assistants that like, it's just not our style. And I'm not saying it won't be one day or it won't make sense one day if we grow and become a bigger agency. I think, we probably will have to implement some of those kind of structures, but yeah, we're just kind of a more boutique, more trying to think of the right word. It's just different. Yeah.
Oh, one thing I always want to ask is why, of all the different agencies that listeners could be querying, why is Root Literary the place for them to be?
Yeah, I like to think that our size makes us like nimble, you know what I mean? And kind of cuts through some of the, I don't know, the lack of transparency that might exist in really big companies that are kind of like a machine, and you might get like lost in the machine. Like, for the most part, I do know like all of my colleagues' clients and like what they're, I might not know every single thing that they're up to, but like I know their names, I know their books, I know what they work on. We often like mail each other copies of our client stuff because we're like, I thought of you. I thought you'd like to read this, even if it's not a genre that we like work in or specialize in as an agent. We're always very much like supportive of our colleagues and sharing what we're up to. And I think there's a real like camaraderie here. Like I feel like we're really collaborative. Prior to the pandemic, we always had like a Slack, like that company Slack. We always had that app. And I worked like one day a week from home, even prior to the pandemic. So we were kind of accustomed to like working in that digital workspace, but now that we're all primarily remote, we're like, very well versed at it. We have a lot of, I feel like we invest a lot in technology and like building out the infrastructure of our agency in very smart ways. So we have like a really intense, like detailed editor database where we like one of my more like administrative roles that I kind of have retained here is administrating that and maintaining it. And like very frequently reaching out to editors and finding out what they're looking for and, what their wish list looks like, so that we're always like able to target the editor who truly is the best fit for this particular project that we might be submitting. And that CRM also allows us to kind of, not in a creepy way, but like spy on what like what our colleagues are doing. Like we can all see to some extent, like, emails via that CRM. And so I can be like, oh, it looks like, Molly pitched this editor with this project last year. And like, that might be informative in some ways, depending on what I'm going out with. Right. And so that like kind of, tearing down the barriers a little bit, right? And like making things more transparent and having access to other agents like sub lists and stuff like that. That's incredibly helpful, especially if you're a newer agent who's, building out your own contacts and your own relationships. And it really gives like every agent here, no matter where they're at in their career, a leg up, I think. And we have like a contract, like today, we actually, one of the assistants that I work with a lot, she mentioned we filed our 1000th contract today in our contract database. So like we have, which is just funny, like a funny milestone. But yeah, we have a contract database with, every film and TV publishing foreign translation contract we've pretty much ever done. And so if I'm negotiating a contract, it's really useful to be able to like dig into that database and be like, well, here's, the best terms that it looks like we've gotten with this publisher. Here's some potential improvements we can make with the deal terms, and to be able to see those improvements from day one of the agency to where we're at now. And then, yeah, I mean, I just think everyone here is super great at their job and super supportive. And yeah, it's really nice to be able to talk to women who are so great at what they do and to really like have that support system and to be able to strategize with them. And I can only speak to Root Literary because while I've interned for other agencies, I've never worked for another agency. So, I don't know how they handle things there, but sometimes I feel like even just from like observing on Twitter or like, paying attention to like industry news, it does feel like for a lot of new agents and therefore their clients, sometimes it's like very sink or swim in this industry. And you don't feel like you have, that support system, even within your own agency. And you kind of feel like you're on your own and you just have to like make it work, or not. And if that's the environment that you're working in as an agent, I think your clients probably will eventually pick up on that too, Yeah. So that's what I would say.